So, welcome to the complete guide to SDP. My name is Christiana Morales, as I said before. This is the very first training, and it is the pre-enrollment supports. Some people call them transition supports. They have lots of different names, but we're going to go through that, how you find them, and how they get paid. This is the process to enroll in the self-determination program. Hopefully, you have already attended an orientation. If you have not, go to the link in the chat and go to our website and look under the orientation page. It lists every regional center, their orientation, and also the state council has an orientation you can attend. You don't have to attend both. You only attend one. You'll get a certificate, and that's really where your transition into self-determination begins. You'll turn that certificate into your service coordinator. Now, we're going to talk about the people who are going to help you along the way. This is the pre-enrollment supports now. I always like to start every meeting talking about the principles of self-determination. The reason we're here, the reason we want to be in the program really is the idea that our loved ones or ourselves, if you were the participant, should have the freedom, authority, responsibility, support, and confirmation over your own lives. And a lot of these seem like things that we take for granted, but that people with disabilities often have to fight for, to have the ability, to have the freedom to choose who they want to have taking care of them, where they're going to spend their time, how they're going to work, where they're going to live. That they should have the authority to make those decisions in their life. So it's really important that this is not just about services. It is about the civil rights and about our loved ones, or you, if you're the participant, to have the rights to all of these important principles. What you're going to learn today is what are pre-enrollment services? And I'll tell you one thing about self-determination program. We love our acronyms. There are so many initials and new words and names. It's like it has its own language. Don't worry, you will get used to it. You'll start speaking self-determination program very soon. And there are also some terms in here that you've probably never heard of, and one of them is independent facilitator because they don't really exist anywhere else. This is something that it's a term used for a service provider only in the self-determination program. So you're going to learn what pre-enrollment services are available to help you get into the program. You're going to learn what an independent facilitator's role is, how they're paid, how to find the right person, and who can be paid to be an independent facilitator. So let's talk about what are pre-enrollment supports. Pre-enrollment supports are the services that are going to help you get into the self-determination program. So at the beginning, we had that chart. There are lots of steps to get in there, right? So they're going to help you work through all those steps to get you in. Now, the person who provides those services is often called an independent facilitator. Now, every independent facilitator doesn't offer all the services. So it's something we're going to talk about what services they can provide and how to choose the right person for the job for you. The important thing to know is that the regional center pays for these supports. They pay for all of these support services, so nothing should ever come out of pocket. So if anybody says they want you to pay for it first or that you have to pay privately, you do not want to work with them. These are all services paid for by your regional center. So let's talk about the 3 types of services that they can provide to you. The first one is person-centered plan. Now, you are not required to have a person-centered plan, but it is highly recommended. Your person-centered plan really becomes the foundation of your whole self-determination program. It's going to help you develop your budget. It's going to help you create your spending plan. And we're going to do a whole training on our next meeting all about person-centered plan. So I'm not going to go into depth of what a person-centered plan is, but we will talk about the person who will help you develop that. That's your person-centered planner. So that's one of the services an independent facilitator can offer. The second is self-directed supports. Anything after you turn in your person-centered plan until the time you transition into the program is called self-directed supports. We're going to go into a lot more detail about this in a second. And then the last part is once you're in the program, you can continue to have supports, and that's when they are actually called independent facilitators. And they actually kind of have a little bit different role as well. So we're going to talk about each one of these. Okay, so what does a person-centered planner do? They are going to help you write this life plan. They're going to listen to what you want, and they're going to help you set goals around that. Um, I said before, join the next session on what a person-centered plan is and why it's so important. But think about this. This person is not writing the plan for you. They are not setting goals for you. This is, remember, we're in self-determination. We want the participant to talk about what are your hopes and dreams. And they're going to facilitate to help you create this plan. No plan looks the same. So when you talk about hiring a person-centered planner, you want somebody who you feel really comfortable with. You're going to be sharing your hopes and dreams. So you want to make sure that you have somebody that you feel really comfortable with. Um, how do you choose this planner? Well, they have to be an expert in both the traditional system and the self-determination program. Now, person-centered planning has been around for a long time and it's used in a lot of different areas. But what you want is somebody who understands specifically this system, because when you finish your plan for it to be the foundation for your whole program, they have to help you come up with goals. Your budget is going to be based on traditional system services. So they have to be able to see your hope, your dream, the supports that you're going to need to do that, tie it into traditional services, and then also be able to tie them into self-determination program services. So they really need to be an expert in self-determination. And that if you were looking for a person-centered planner who doesn't typically work in self-determination, you got to make sure they understand these two systems. The second part is they have to have some sort of training in person-centeredness. There is no current required training or licensure that you have to have, but in order for them to get paid, they're going to need to show that they have training in it. And the last thing is, this is something where they don't have to be vendored. So you can pick anybody that you want to do this who meets those qualifications that you select. Again, this is a service paid for by the regional center. They don't need to be vendored. They're going to get paid up to $1,000 for that plan. And then you will approve this plan. So before they turn it in, you will look at it and say, yeah, this represents what I believe, my hopes and dreams, what I want to happen. And then you're going to take that plan and turn it into your service coordinator. That's kind of one of your next steps in that process to transition in. And at that point, they can turn in an invoice to be paid for that service. Okay, so you have your person-centered plan finished. Now what happens? Now we had a lot more steps to go through. Who's going to help you with that? What the person called, what the service is called, is self-directed supports. Again, I said we like to have lots of names for things here, and so they're calling it self-directed supports. Sometimes you might hear the term 099. That's another word for it. So let's talk a little bit about what these self-directed supports are. The self-directed supports help you with the rest of the enrollment process. So from the time you turn in your person-centered plan, you're going to be developing your budget. You're going to have an IPP meeting. You're going to develop your spending plan. You're going to start looking for services and providers. You're going to select your financial management service. So you've got a lot of things to do. And these are the people who should really be experts in all these areas. They can be paid up to 40 hours. And they are paid by the regional center with a set rate. Each regional center has a set rate for this. Now, the last point I'm going to say with a little bit of a caveat, which is They do not need to be vendored, but every regional center does not have a system in place yet to pay for non-vendored um, self-directed supports. So if they don't have it set in place, there are what they call 099 vendored self-directed support providers. Every regional center has some. So you can use one of those in the meantime until they get that non-vendored option available. So what you will need to do is ask the person, are you able to work with my regional center? So you don't need to, this is more for your information. You don't need to memorize all this stuff or know all of this. You just need to kind of know um, about what are they getting paid? What should you expect from them? Those kind of pieces. So let's talk about the parts they can help you with, which is, I think I already went through this a little bit. They're going to help you with that development of your IPP. They're going to help you establish your budget. You're going to create your spending plan, pick your financial management service. I think we're up to maybe 26 financial management services, and there is not one perfect one. They all have different ways of doing things, and not all of them work with every regional center. And so they're going to help you pick one that's going to work for your needs, your specific needs. And so again, great thing to that they should have experience with a lot of financial management services so they can help you make that decision. And then they're going to make sure that everything is approved and ready to go on the day that you transition over. Um, so how do you set up these supports? All you have to do is like you would with any other service, the traditional center service, because remember, you're in the traditional system until the day you switch to self-determination programs. So you are a traditional system client. So just like you would ask for any other service, you will talk to your service coordinator and say, hey, I selected this independent facilitator I'd like to work with. And they will then work on adding it to your IPP. So they will do all that stuff in the background. You don't have to worry too much about it. Your independent facilitator and the service coordinator will work to get that all set up for you. So all you really have to do is pick the person you want to work with and let your service coordinator know. Okay, so now once you're in self-determination program, they're actually called independent facilitators now, which is funny. So let's talk a little bit about what these services could look like. So an independent facilitator, once you're in the program, they work for you, no longer the regional center. So what that means is you will put them in your spending plan and you will pay them through your financial management service for their services. The budget is not increased to pay for this. So, think about the fact that you get a total dollar amount for your budget that you will have to spend some of the money that you would normally spend on other services for this support. You do need to know that every year you do something. Some of them call it a rollover, some of them call it redetermination, but the annual, you will look at your budget, have a new budget created, and update your spending plan. I would recommend the first year that you do have some sort of independent facilitator support. As you're learning all of this, as you're getting people set up the first year, learning how your financial management service works, learning how it goes, I do recommend that you plan to have somebody help you through that first year. If you can, it's not mandatory. That again is your choice. They are mandated to have some sort of certificate or training, but there is no specific one that they are required to. And the way they get set up is, remember the last one was set up through your service coordinator. This would be set up through your financial management service. And again, remember, it's the independent facilitator's responsibility to figure out how to be paid. So you as a participant really don't need to worry too much about this. I just want to make sure you understand what they're getting paid and who they're being paid by, just so you have that information, just so you know. So when you are in the self-determination program, the types of things that they can do to help you is they can help you find services and supports. They can help you manage your spending plan. So you could have somebody who every month you will get a report from your financial management service talking about how much you have spent. Now, some people are very good at managing this stuff, and some people might need assistance doing it. You have to stay on budget because you can't just run out of money. You got to make sure that you are managing this money well. So this might be something that you want your independent facilitator to help you with. Am I staying on budget? How's my spending going? Keeping track of those things. Um, if you require a spending plan change, if you need to move money around. So let's say you were looking at your spending and said, "Oh, this changed. I'm not using a lot in this area. I want to move it to this other area." They can help you with an update your spending plan. And they can, if something changes, if you have a change in circumstance or a new need that comes up that wasn't included in your budget before, then they can help you have a budget update. So, in the self-determination program, you are still a traditional regional center client, which means you have all the same protections, all the same rights. So you can at any time call an IPP meeting and say, "Hey, I have a change. I have a change in circumstance. I need to look at this." So all of those rights will stay with you. And then we kind of talked about the annual rollover. Now, I have a recommendation to you as a participant that you always have some sort of written agreement with your any of these roles, any one of those sections, that you understand what they're going to provide and what they're not going to provide. So you guys are on the same page. You'll always know what is expected. I will also tell you that every independent facilitator doesn't necessarily offer all these services. There are some independent facilitators that only help you with the pre-enrollment, that help you transition in. There are some that only do person-centered plans, and there are some that do just once you're in the program. Some will help you hire people and organize their schedules, and some won't. So it's really important that you ask them, what are the services that you provide? And then you'll all be on the same page. So here is the overall. I filled in the chart for you. We will put in the chat the link to this so you don't have to worry about this. You can get the slides. Everything is on our website, so all the information is there. But I'm one of those people, I like charts and I like cheat sheets. So this is kind of your overall cheat sheet of, how they get paid, how much they get paid, and what the different roles are. So now there are a few things I want you to consider and to think about when you're hiring this independent facilitator. I think that you have to realize that this is a position of trust, especially if they're doing your person-centered plan. They're going to be helping you meet your goals. So you want somebody who listens to you, who you trust, who you feel comfortable with. They provide that clear agreement with you, so you know exactly what they're going to provide, how many hours they're going to be providing it to you. That they're not charging for hours they do not work. So you should not be seeing things like a percentage of your budget is what they charge. So we're really talking about when you're negotiating the rate is really when you're doing the IF once you're in the self-determination program, right? Think about, are they the right person for the job? Independent facilitators have an extremely high level of expertise. They should know so much about so many different things. They should know the businesses that are local to you. They should be familiar with your regional center. Specifically, they should understand regional center processes, procedures, rules, what are available, the services that are available. They should understand self-determination program, processes, procedures, all the things that are available to you. They should understand the generic resources, school district, Social Security, Department of Rehabilitation, in-home support services. So they have to have this massive knowledge. So because of that, they have a high rate. So remember, You want to make sure that you're paying for that knowledge and that expertise. You've got that there, that they are the right person to do the job. So let's say maybe you want somebody to help you schedule your employees. Well, what I'll see a lot of people do is they will have one of their employees make more money than the others, and they will be the one who manages the employees. But I can guarantee you that person probably costs less than an independent facilitator. So that's what I mean by make sure you have the right person for the right job. A good independent facilitator is worth their weight in gold, um, but use them for that expertise. Um, they should never ask you to pay anything out of pocket ever. All of these services are paid for through Medicaid, and so you should never be paying anything out of pocket. They should always treat you like you were the client. You're the boss. You hire them. So you want to make sure that you have somebody who understands that they are always being person-centered. They are always making sure that you have the information you need, but you're the decision maker. They should always provide access to all of your documents in an editable form. So if you change and you don't have to stay with one. In fact, you can use multiple who maybe have expertise in different areas, which is absolutely fine. But you should always have, these are your documents. You should always have them. So if you have a person-centered plan, you should have an editable version of that. So if you want to update it at some point, you can do that. These are your documents. You want to look for a rate that is reasonable that you can afford. And how do you know what you can afford? It's going to be based on your budget and the hopes and dreams that you have in your spending plan. All of the things that you want to achieve in your spending plan. We don't want to see independent facilitation to be the most expensive thing on your plan. Your goal is to be spending this on services and on things that provide. So the other last thing is the statute does require that they pay for their own training. So you don't want to hire somebody that says, well, you need to pay for my training. So then this is a very common question we get quite often, which is who cannot be paid to be an independent facilitator? Parents of minors cannot be paid to be an independent facilitator for their own child. Now, you can act as one. You can be their independent facilitator. You cannot be paid to do it. The spouse of a participant, same thing. You can act as independent facilitator, but you cannot be paid to do it. Now, as service coordinator, we're going to talk in the next slide what the service coordinator role could be, but they can't be paid separately to do this. So if you ever have somebody who says, oh, I'll do it separately from the regional center and you pay me as independent facilitator, a service coordinator cannot do that. And finally, the last one who cannot be paid is somebody who provides another service to you. So in your spending plan, an independent facilitator can only provide that one service. They cannot provide, they can't work for be an employee or drive you places or help you out in the community and be an independent facilitator. They cannot do that. They can only offer that single service. So let's talk about can your service coordinator act as your independent facilitator? So the first thing that I want to say is that there's over 400,000 people in the regional center system currently, clients. And right now we have just over 6,000 people in self-determination program. So what does that mean? It means there's a very good chance that your service coordinator has never helped somebody with self-determination program before. They might have, but there is a good chance that they haven't. So you may be working together to figure this out and to work your way into the program, which is okay. We can join arms and be a community and figure this out together. So every regional center has experts in self-determination program. So if you ever feel like your service coordinator is a little bit lost or don't know what they're doing, make sure that they are reaching out to those experts. And how do you find them? Through your local volunteer advisory committee. Every regional center has a local volunteer advisory committee and they have monthly meetings. If you are ever kind of stuck and you don't know what to do, it's a great place to go and get information. So, what can a service coordinator do if they're acting as in that independent facilitator role? Is they can lead your person-centered plan. Now, this plan, there's a new IPP out that just started in January of this year, and they actually do a lot of the person-centered planning. Now, they're going to sit down with you for, a couple hours and do this. It will never be to the same extent of what a person-centered planner does. So if you want a really in-depth person-centered plan, this takes hours of meetings and talking and figuring it out and writing it up. Um, it will always be more in depth because person-centered planners have more time. Remember, they had up to that $1,000 that they could use. So, um, but they could. If you can't find somebody, they could help you with that. They can help. They're going to help you develop your IPP, and they could help with your budget and spending plan. And they can provide the community resources that they have access to, meaning vendor services. They cannot go out into the community and help you find services. They cannot negotiate rates or anything like that. They can't help you schedule your people. As I said before, they can't be paid to be an independent facilitator. The other thing which is tough is they cannot recommend a specific financial management service to you. And so they may have kind of people that they prefer working with, but they can't tell you that because these financial management services are vendored by the regional centers, so they can't show a preference to one vendor over others. And then the last one is kind of what we already talked about. They're not ever going to be able to produce that detailed person-centered plan. Okay, now I think the question of the day that everybody, how do I find this person? How do I find an independent facilitator? Well, one of the first things I did create is a lot of times people don't even know what questions to ask. So when I'm interviewing somebody, how do I even know what question to ask? Well, I have a list of questions for you. We'll put this link in the chat. Griffin, if you could put the link in the chat for what questions to ask. So it gives you an idea of things that you might want to ask them when you're interviewing. What I would say, though, is remember, you're looking for somebody you're comfortable with. You should, when you talk to them, you should feel like, okay, this is somebody I want to share my hopes and dreams with. I want to spend the time. I want to create this person-centered plan. I would also look at how long did it take them to get back to you? Were they responsive? These are things that, you want to make sure. And you can ask them, how long does it usually take you to get back to people and those kind of things. There's also a website that has a list of people that you can call or to check in with. Griffin, if you could put that in the chat as well. So you can go and look to the website and you can sort them by there. Other ways to find them is ask other people who are in self-determination who they have and if they like them, who they're using. This is a great place for that local volunteer advisory committee. Go to the volunteer advisory committee and chat with other people. Who are you using? Do you like them? How's it going? There are different resource fairs. So the regional centers, the volunteer advisory committees will sometimes have self-determination program resource fairs. It's a great place to find independent facilitators. And then the other thing is join our events, the SDI events. So we have 2 per month. One is an open meeting where you will meet a financial management service and a provider. We always invite independent facilitators to post their information in the chats to introduce themselves. You can also, please feel free to post, I'm looking for somebody, I'm with this regional center, or I'm in this area. So what you should know as we finish up this training is you should know that you get to choose the person who helps you. Nobody's going to be assigned to you. So this is your choice and you are the client. You're the one in charge. You do not have to pay for this. This should never come out of your money. You want to make sure that this person is the right fit for you. And so let's say you get started and you realize maybe they're not the right fit. You can change. You can absolutely change. When we said you had to have that agreement, look in that agreement and make sure that either one of you can change if you want to. This should be a positive working relationship. There should never be a cost to leave them. Those are things you want to look at in those agreements. You should feel like they're listening to you, your wants, your needs, and helping you figure out ways to get to those goals. And I can't say it enough, you're the client. You're hiring this person, you're in charge. If you want more information, please go to our website. It is actually it's under construction. It's being built. But I wanted to share it with you now as it's being built because this page is done. All the information is there. And as we work through these trainings, you are going to see it growing and building as we go. And I want to remind everyone that next month, our training is going to be on the person-centered plan. So we're going to go into a lot more detail about what the person-centered plan is, what one should look like, and all of that.